Sabbath from the Twin Islands of Antigua and Barbuda. All right. The over 365 square sandy beaches, coupled with a relaxed atmosphere of island. Our island visitors rush to our shores from far and near. Plenty and presently, our island nation is the headquarters of the Southern Island
Conference
is situated in the island of Antigua. But our Adventist root goes way back to the late 18th century.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Nobody here was even born yet.
That's true. The Adventist message officially reached Antigua and Barbuda when Elder William Arnold arrived in December 1888. Let's flash back and hear from Elder Arnold himself.
Pleasant Sabbath, everyone.
Pleasant Sabbath.
Well, my name is Arnold Williams. In 1888, while I was canvassing in Antigua, I met several important people, including James Ackerman, an estate owner who helped me by organizing a system for his workers to distribute Adventist literature all over the island. I also sold a book to a gentleman who sent it to his son, James Palmer, in Kingston, Jamaica. God is so good. That one book triggered the start of the Adventist work over in Jamaica. I had to leave Antigua for a brief period, but when I returned after an absence of 2 years, Adventism had begun to take root on the island in spite of the many challenges by the new believers.
Now I understand why we have so many pastors coming in.
Can we fast forward to the present? We had a youth camp in Nevis, and there were over 100 youths from Antigua. And I am sure a lot more could have come if they wanted to. It seems that Adventism is strong in Antigua and Barbuda.
Indeed, it is. Today, Adventism is highly esteemed in our homeland. It includes youth work, an education system, a radio station, a credit union, an early childhood center, a senior citizen home, a book center, a campground, and 31 congregations across 14 districts. Currently, there are over 12,000 members, and one in each resident is an Adventist. Adventists serve at the high level of the private and public sectors, and the Governor General, managers, teachers, nurses, ambassadors, permanent secretaries, ministry of government, including our Prime Minister and parliamentarian, magistrate, judges, physician, attorney, and minister of government, and much more, etc. and etc. So that may be one of the reasons why the headquarters is situated in Antigua.
Now I understand why we have so many pastors coming from Antigua. I thought it was because they like our cornmeal and fish, as well as our marble and sarsaparilla, but seems like they love evangelism.
Of course, we have a strong desire to spread the bread of life to everyone we come in contact with. And of course, fungi surely strengthened us to go on God's errands. I wish I could have had some to give everyone, but unfortunately I only have a picture to show you all. Forward ever, brethren, let's continue to spread the gospel and kindle the flames of Adventism wherever we go.
Okay, I'm here on relatively short notice, but now I'll present to you the information I have on the British Virgin Islands, where my wife was born. So I'm representing Sister Tyrrell and the churches across our total right now. Yeah, when I got to Tortola, I lived in Tortola for a number of years. When I got there were just 3 churches in Tortola. There was one in Virgin Gardens, 3 in Tortola. There's one in East End, one in Road Town, and one in Carrot Bay. 3. The Adventist population then was just about 400. Now here we are in 2023. There are now 7 churches in Tortola plus a Spanish company.
Amen.
In Tortola you have a church in Bellevue. Those of you who know the territory of Tortola and the geography and what have you, it's one of them Bellevue, which is up on the hill, if you understand, it's not Tortola well. Carrot Bay Church, where I was baptized, is still there. The church in East End, and I'm going to explain the East End situation in a little bit. Another church in Purcell, which is maybe a mile or 2 outside of Road Town. There's one in Virgin Gorda, and there is one in an area called Slaney, Sweet Redemptive. Okay. Let me spend a little time telling you a little about the Eastern situation. The church in Eastern had a small group headed by a particular family that was divided on philosophy. The family had produced an Adventist pastor, went to college, did graduate work, came back and decided he had some new philosophies. He was able to attract a significant portion of the Eastern congregation with him. I wouldn't name the family really, but was able to attract a significant portion of the Eastern congregation. And they went out and so they formed their own church. And of course, by forming their own church, they were no longer a member of the North Caribbean Conference. The Lord in His infinite wisdom spoke to that family a little later. They recognized their errors and reapplied to North Caribbean for membership. North Caribbean Conference reaccepted them. That is the one that's referred to as Maranatha in Eastern. In addition, when I got to Tortola had a primary school. It now has, at least a primary, of course, Seventh Day Adventist school. It now has a full-blown secondary school in Tortola in an area called Siggers Bay. Amen. So the work in Tortola has grown tremendously. All right, and it continues to grow. Trying to remember anyways, not very important. So yes, what you have here, what you have in Tortola to my mind, is a typical example of church growth in the region. From 1973, when I left Tortola as a resident, up to now, the church's population has more than doubled. And they now have a Spanish congregation, when on the records here, its membership is 102. Total church membership in Tortola as of December 2022 is 2,533. So it's a tremendous growth of the work in Tortola. So on their behalf, I solicit your prayers on the work in the British Virgin Islands.
Dominica, nature isle of the Caribbean.
Land of beauty, land of splendor.
We are now going to sing the national anthem, so we invite you to stand at attention. I love beauty, I love splendor, I too also sweet and fair. All must surely gaze in wonder at thy gift so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. Healthy land, soul life, all fountain, giving cheer that warms the soul. Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to give you a brief history of Adventism in Dominica. All right, so Adventism began in Dominica when two Sabbath keepers from Antigua, they took up residence in Dominica in the capital city of Roseau. Later on in 1904, a pastor by the name of Philip Giddens and his wife, Laus, they embarked on an aggressive evangelistic campaign in the capital city of Roseau. As a result of these campaigns, they had some sort of gathering at church every night. So on Sunday afternoon, they would have open airs, and then on Sunday night, they would have church. On Monday night, they would have preaching. On Tuesday and Wednesday night, they would have women and men Bible class. On Thursday night, they would have general Bible reading. On Friday evenings, they would have short exhortation, prayer, praise, and an opportunity for any desirous to seek the Lord. And on Sabbath, they would have the regular Sabbath service. As a result of this, a gentleman by the name of Brother John Joseph and his family, they were among the first converts on the island to Adventism. And as a result of this, they sought to construct a little wooden building whereby they can have the gatherings and their worship. But sadly, this building was destroyed in 1930 by a hurricane. After that, the believers, they started worshiping at the home of Brother Joseph, and they continued as such for many years. But under the leadership of Pastor W.A. Lewis, the believers, they rented an apartment, a building, and they started using it for worship. They later on went on to purchase a lot near the Roseau East Bridge, and they erected a church building on that property. After that, under the leadership of Pastor H.E. Hempel, who was the president of the Leeward Islands Mission at the time, and Pastor W.A. Lewis, the Roseau SDA Church was built and dedicated in the year 1939. During the early 70s, the membership began to grow so that the structure became too small to house the amount of members that they had at the time. So the pastor at the time, Pastor Liebert, he commenced an addition to the existing facility, and he built a vestry, a baptistry, and an Adventist book center, and also a shelter as part of that building. There were further significant developments in 1983 with the dedication of the Dominica Seventh Day Adventist Secondary School, as well as two churches, one in Bonn, which is the northern side of the country, and one in Point Michel, which is the southern part of the country. By 1988, the school's enrollment program, it had grown to 179, and a full 5-year secondary education was offered at the Dominica Seventh Day Adventist Secondary School. In 1987, evangelist Pastor Roosevelt Daniel, he conducted his first evangelistic campaign in the capital city of Roseau. And after 8 weeks, 191 persons were baptized. The growth of the church in the Eastern District from the Kalinago territory over to Delicis. It was the most difficult and challenging part of the country to evangelize. And in May 1991, Pastor Mozart Serra, who unfortunately died in an accident, during his first campaign in Saint-Sauveur, he baptized 25 individuals. In January 1992, he further went on to Lapland, an unentered area, and 12 more persons were baptized, and also a company was established in that area. In October 1992, Pastor Augustus, he launched the Operation Victory Crusade in Grand Fort, another unentered area in the country, and 18 souls were baptized. In 1993, in a place called Petit Soufrier, that is a village in the country which was completely destroyed after Hurricane Maria in 2017, 3 persons were baptized. In July 1993, a new Adventist church was established in an area called Cassibruce, thanks to an evangelistic campaign led by Pastor Redverse Filbert. For 40 years, Adventism in that area in Cassibruce, it was difficult because of a large presence of Catholics and other Protestants. However, after this evangelistic campaign by Pastor Filbert, 93 souls were baptized, and Cassibruce was never the same again. Now, the group in the Kalinago territory, that is the part of the country in Dominica that is designated for the indigenous people, it was evangelized by a man named Metric Fabian from Benz. Now, this section of the island, it is reserved by the government of Dominica for the Kalinago people and is not to be sold. For the East Caribbean Conference, they received permission from the Carib Council to erect a stone structure which the council hoped would be a unifying link for the Kalinago community. And when Metric Fabian and the other guys went up there to do the evangelistic work, they didn't have vehicles, so they had to walk. It's a distance which is about 2 times, going around Nevis about 2 times. It's about that distance, they had to walk. But they were committed to starting churches and evangelizing these areas, so they took on the challenge and they were successful at it. By 1985, between 1985 and 1992, in Dominica, we saw the influx or the advent of the Maranatha volunteers. They began coming into the country. And so this Adventist organization, they built new churches in Roseau, Dubla, Coliho, and Viecas. It also built a new wing which accommodated a library and staff rooms for the secondary school in Portsmouth. The 21st century, in the modern times, we had evangelists such as Clive Dutton and Claudius Morgan, who conducted a number of evangelistic campaigns in Dominica, which saw a significant increase in Adventism. In 2007, Pastor Roosevelt Daniel returned to Dominica for his 20th anniversary Maranatha Crusade. Remember, he had the first one in '87, so he came back for the 20th century. And the culmination of this harvest reaping Maranatha campaign saw the establishment of the Maranatha Seventh Day Adventist Church Company in the Roseau North region. In addition, 2 other companies were formed to facilitate the membership from Kingshill and Funkley. These are 2 little villages close to the town area. Now, the presence of Seventh Day Adventist Church in Dominica is very well felt throughout the island. There are currently on record 27 Adventist churches and 5 companies in Dominica. There are also 3 primary schools, 1 to the northeastern side of the country, 1 to the western side of the country, and 1 in the town area. There is also 1 secondary school, that is the Arthur Waldron Seventh Day Adventist Academy, formerly known as the Dominica Seventh Day Adventist Secondary School, and it's located in Portsmouth, that was the northern part of the country. Currently, the membership of Dominica exceeds over 7,000 Seventh Day Adventist members.
Amen.
Okay, so the element of our culture which we would like to highlight is our folk music, some of which is in our local dialect, Creole or Patois. So we're going to start with a common chorus, which is God is a good God, but we're going to sing it in Creole. They say about day we say pray. They say about day we celebrate. They say about day we celebrate. They say about day we celebrate. He live him where, he tune him where, he plant him where, a whole lot there. He live him where, he tune him where, he plant him where, a whole lot there. Thank you.
Amen.
And we're gonna leave with a song, O Dominica. O Dominica, the land of beauty, the land of verdure and glorious sunshine. Your hills and mountains are filled with envy by those who stay here, even for a while. Here is the land, so green and beautiful, as we sing of your Aguti Cicero and Manipu, of the mountain valleys, rivers, flowers too, of the birds and crapple, palm trees in the sun. Oh yes, it is the sun, you're a happy land. Oh yes, it is the sun, you're a happy land.
A pleasant Sabbath is wished to all. Can you guess why I'm standing here today? Yes, to represent the islands of the United States Virgin Islands. More so, the land of my birth, sunny St. Croix. Yes, as they will say, a cruision maybe. Do we have any cruision today? Let me see the VI sign. At this point, I must give credit to one of our very own family of mine, Una A. Brown Todman, for the information I will share today in a section of a research paper done in April 2000 for the University of the Virgin Islands, of which she was given a grade A for representing the topic, the origin and growth of the Seventh Day Adventist Church on St. Croix. Did you know in 1883, William Boynton, the International Tract Society worker in New York City, sent a bundle of tracts dealing with the Seventh-day Adventist teachings to British Guiana, now Guyana. The story tells that he had asked the captain of a ship to distribute them in British Guiana. The captain, however, simply scattered them on a wharf, saying that he had fulfilled his promise. An old man gathered some, took them home, but he fell ill. A neighbor who later missed him went in search of him and found him ill. She took one of the tracts home, read it, and she began to observe the Sabbath. From this beginning, the organization spread to the Caribbean. Thus, we conclude that Seventh-day Adventism was formally introduced to St. Croix in 1908 by H.C. Walker and was followed by James M. Matthew. They worked in the Christian area and a group of 40 converts were baptized. These formed the nucleus of a church in Christiansted. In 1924, it was officially organized. The present Christiansted Seventh-day Adventist Temple, which is actually my home church, was officially dedicated in 1969. At that time, the membership was 256. Christiansted is therefore regarded as the cradle of Seventh-day Adventism in St. Croix. It was from this small beginning that work would later emerge as the fastest growing church on St. Croix. Today, the membership on St. Croix stands at approximately 5,167, which comprises of 8 churches, namely Christiansted, Frederiksted, Peters Rest, Faith, Spanish-speaking congregations, Central, Bethel, and Hope. These churches were formed out of many evangelistic meetings over the years. My island house and also falls under the umbrella of the North Caribbean Conference, of which Nevis was before there was SLC. One queries, why did this apparently insignificant movement gain momentum and experience such a phenomenal growth? To answer the question, we should examine the religious and economic slate of the island, then at the turn of the century. The presence of churches in the Virgin Islands dates back to the period when European colonists brought their traditional religions with them. According to Jensen, at that point, the labor force of St. Croix had a significantly high percentage of immigrants who came from Antigua, Barbados, Trinidad, and other Eastern Caribbean islands. These people found themselves at the bottom of the social ladder in a foreign society. Many of them deserved social mobility. However, they were not welcomed into the congregations of the elite, the white Europeans. Thus, when presented with the prospect of being able to worship in a church where all considered equal and treated thus, indeed, it was rather comforting and rewarding to accept the invitation to become part of the movement. It is quite possible, too, that some of these immigrants might have been exposed to Adventism in the East Caribbean, where the movement had already taken root. As well will be detailed later, the movement took wings during the 1960s. Again, this was a period of great influx of East Caribbean people who were brought to cut sugarcane on the central estates, such as Bethlehem. Even more significantly, these immigrants were made to feel rather unwelcome into the indigenous St. Croix society. Names such as aliens and garrot were cast at them. Their women folk had to do the manual work in the homes of their employers who bonded them, and their children found it rather difficult to get an entrance in the public school system. At this time, the Adventist movement had grown significantly to establish a school, and this school, along with other private-run schools, became a refuge for the alien children. There is no doubt, therefore, that the time was right for the church to become more aggressive in its evangelical thrust. Indeed, it proved a haven for the immigrants of the 1960s. This view is authenticated by the fact that the membership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in St. Croix is not composed of a significant number of indigenous Crucians. In addition to the reasons listed, this writer is of the opinion that the Bible-based doctrines of the church, clearly and dramatically expounded during the evangelical meetings, offered comfort and hope to people during those trying times. Many of these people testified to the fact that they had no interest in becoming adherents to the Seventh-day Adventist doctrines, but had attended out of curiosity and been convinced that they should change their lifestyle. I pray that the Seventh-day Adventist movement continues to expand as they live to their American motto, "In God we trust."
As you realize, there's a great bit of diversity in the Gingerland Church. And though at present we do not have any members who are from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we do have persons who are part of our congregation who come from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes. So at this point, I'm going to ask Brother James to stand.
Amen.
All right, and can you just show them the St. Vincent and the Grenadines flag? All right. Now, even though you see him as one person there, it does not mean that the congregation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is very small. I'm going to give you a little snapshot of what happens in his home country. Okay? So let me get to it, please. Okay, so the St. Vincent and the Grenadines mission, they were formerly part of the East Caribbean Conference, but let's go down there again, hold on. Okay, so let's go. St. Vincent and the Grenadines mission, formerly part of the East Caribbean Conference, is part of the Caribbean Union Conference in the Inter-American Division of Seventh-day Adventists. St. Vincent and the Grenadines mission covers St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and its headquarters is in Kingston, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What is the statistic? It tells us that in June 30, 2019, there were 39 churches. And the membership, listen, he's only one person here in Nevis today, but the membership stands at 16,069. So he has a lot of company. And I use a Spanish term, ojalá. If only one day we would reach that state, but you know our population is small, so, but we keep working, right? Okay, the beginning of the Adventist work, let's see how it began in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is believed that the Seventh-day Adventist message was first introduced to a family in the rural community of Coleshill on the leeward side of the island around the year 1895. This family would have heard the distinctiveness of Adventism from relatives in Trinidad. You see how the ripple effect from one Caribbean island to another goes? And they became convinced that God was raising up a new generation of believers who would be faithful to Him and obedient to His commandments. They accepted the message and began practicing the Adventist lifestyle. And so that was in the 1800s. Notice that we say it has blossomed to, in 2019 it was 16,000 plus. So imagine this is 2023. It is my prayer that that number has increased also. Now, from just that family, the work grew so much that in the end, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they became a mission. See if I can find that, right? Let's see if I can pick that up. Okay, so by November 2012, you had the inauguration of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines mission under the theme, Embracing the Promise, Fulfilling the Mission. And then they talked about the number of directors and so on who were elected or appointed at that time. And some of the names you don't know, but there's one person who I would mention, and I am sure we all would have heard his name, Pastor Claudius Morgan. You're familiar with him? He was right there. He was at that time, they mentioned him as auditor and Pastor Claudius Morgan. That was him. And that was part of the union when it was inaugurated. And what happened at the present now, the worker force of the St. Vincent and Grenada mission, it currently has 86 employees, comprising 3 administrators, 4 full-time directors, an auditor, 5 office staff, 15 pastors, 4 principals, 50 teachers, and 4 dental clinic workers. With God, all things are possible. Thank you.
Yes, I am from Nevis, but I lived more than half of my life in Curacao. Okay. I didn't get a chance to investigate or get all the details from Curacao. But anyway, my part is to sing here a song in Papiamento. Okay. Yeah? Okay. It is Blessed Assurance in Papiamento. Yes? Dulce consuelo, tinden Jesus, o que you danza, mahaya denche, dormi picana, ela quita, nace di novo, purifica. Dami historia, dami canción, alaba Jesús, tur ora voy. Dami historia, dami canción, Durora bai, lo mi somete, na mi Señor, perfectamente seguir su luz, lo mi confiar siempre en Jesús, lo mi siguiele hasta la cruz, paz lo mi haya den su misión, y le dona su gran protección, lo mi esperaba, siempre reza, y ora come contra allá. Da mi historia, da mi canción, alaba Jesús. Satanás. Durora bai, da mi historia, da mi canción, alaba Jesús. Durora
Back again. All right. Now, as Adventists, I think based on what you would have heard already, I think you've heard about Antigua, you've heard about St. Croix and all of that. But you know, Adventism, our roots go all the way back to Guyana. Any Guyanese in the house? Sister Wendy, and I saw Sister Busu right behind there, right? So Guyana has had a significant impact on Adventism throughout the region. Amen. Now, let's look at the origins of Seventh Day Adventism in Guyana. The International Tract and Mission Society is cited as the primary source of contact between British Guyana and the Seventh Day Adventist Church in 1883 to 1885. Early records of Tract Society activity are based on oral sources, they say, that are difficult to trace. One account is about tracts that were left on a wharf in Georgetown. And as you hear the history of Adventism in the Caribbean, you're going to keep hearing about those tracts which were left in Georgetown. Those tracts were left, it is said, by a ship's captain in fulfillment of a request from W.J. Boynton of New York. Reading of a tract reportedly led to a woman named Alberta Aline to observe Saturday as the Sabbath. Okay? Now, it is that, as I mentioned before, it is that early start in Guyana which had a ripple effect which led to Adventism throughout the Caribbean. And now, let me give you some statistics. I don't know if they're up to date, but this is what I got, right? But it boggles my mind when we look at it. It says here, the Adventist Church in Guyana has a membership of over, you all want to make a guess?
1 million.
No. Over, not that much, but over 62,000. Sister Wendy? 62,000? That's how many people in Nevis? So it's like all of Nevis could be Seventh Day Adventists, right? Think it's Nevis. We could just fit in a little that in Guyana. But in Guyana, the membership is over 62,000. And they worship in 228 congregations, which are distributed in 31 pastoral districts, scattered across the 3 counties of the country. That sounds like a mother church. Have a pleasant Sabbath.
Yes, I am not Jamaican, but my daughter is. She was born in Jamaica, and you know, I lived in Jamaica for a couple of years while pursuing my education. Now, I'll give you a little history of the flag of Jamaica. Now, they think, or it is said, that this flag is the most iconic and unique flag in the world. I wonder why. Because what? Somebody mentioned African. Okay. Now, really and truly, it's because of the colors of the flag. They say that every other flag has in 3 other colors that Jamaican flag does not have in. Anybody want to guess? Red. Red? Yes.
White.
White, yes. Blue. Very good. They don't have in white. The flag doesn't have in white, red, or blue. But every other flag has in either one or more of those colors. Now, I'll give you a little insight of what the colors stand for. The black is for strength and creativity of the people, which has allowed them to overcome difficulties. The gold is for the wealth of the country and the golden sunshine. The green is for the lush vegetation of the island, as well as hope. And Jamaicans, you find them, they might say hope. Hope. Okay. While trying to get some information to present this morning, I looked at the national anthem. And I realized that it's actually a prayer. I'll read it. Part of it, and maybe sing the other part. Eternal, it goes like this. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth, be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us so we to cherish. Give us wisdom lest we perish. Knowledge send us, Heavenly Father, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever, Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Actually, I forgot to ask y'all to stand. But thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge somebody in the audience, in the congregation, who is Jamaican. He's a Jamaican living in the UK, or was, well, when he introduces himself later, he will, you'll understand really. He's Jamaican UK. That's what he told us this morning. And so, I looked down and I realized he was actually singing the song along with me. And now I ask Brother Halley to please play a short portion of the history of Adventism in Jamaica. Right now they have at least 700 churches. And I really should have tried to find out how many members they have right now. So I'll ask Brother Harry to please play that little part that I asked him to.
In 1889, James Palmer discovered the Advent message from a book given to him by his father. Eager to learn more, Palmer wrote to the International Tract Society and later received a batch of tracts which he began distributing throughout Kingston, Jamaica. A true pioneer, Palmer took to the streets, continuing his work of proclaiming the gospel with those he came across. Palmer spoke of the love of Christ and pointed to the promises found in his word. He was sure to say a prayer and always left a tract behind, confident that the Holy Spirit would finish the work. With each encounter, Palmer reasoned at length, shedding light on commonly held beliefs to bring new understanding.
And so, they're here to just share with you.
Margaret Harrison, a social worker at the Kingston Public Hospital, learned of the Sabbath from reading one of Palmer's tracts and decided to join the small worship sessions in his home. Together with those he had converted along the way, the group became the first company of Sabbath keepers in Jamaica. Margaret's request to the General Conference led to public evangelistic meetings to transform lives. From this effort, the first Seventh Day Adventist church known as North Street was born on March 2nd, 1893. As North Street approaches its 125th year, we invite you to stand with us as we celebrate the birth of Adventism in Jamaica and rejoice in the fruits of our labor.
Thank you. That documentary was done in 2019. And when my daughter went off to Jamaica, she was able to join with a student body called the Advent Fellowship Student Body, put it that way. And she has gained, she was able to gain a whole lot of support from, associating with those people. And I'm asking that if any of you, are planning to send your children to Jamaica, make sure that they are able to be a part of Advent Fellowship. And along with Jamaica, could somebody please help me here? Jamaica has its own union, right? Before that, they were a part of, help please. Okay, before that they were a part of the Caribbean Union, but now they have their own union. And also they have a university in Jamaica, the Northern Caribbean University. Northern Caribbean University. So I would ask you to research, see how much information you can get about that university and see if that's a university. I would encourage you to send your children to that university because it's an Adventist university. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. And visiting friends. We are here to represent the island of St. Lucia, and at this time, we're trying to sing the national anthem.
Sons and daughters of St. Lucia, love the land that gave us birth. beaches, hills and valleys, fairest isle of all the earth, wheresoever you may roam. Love, oh love, our island home. Gone the time when nation battle for this Helen of the West. Gone the days when strife and discord dim the children's toil and rest. On at last the brighter day stretches out a glad new way. May the good Lord bless our island, guard her sons from woe and harm. May our people live united, strong in soul and strong in arms. Justice, truth, and charity, ideal forever be.
Okay, at this time I am going to give us a little synopsis of how Adventism came into St. Lucia.
Oh, okay, thank you. In 1890, a man by the name of William Arnold came to St. Lucia. Now, why did William Arnold came to St. Lucia? Now, he came from America, and he was a colporteur. He was selling books. He also studied the Bible, and he prayed with the people. Now, do you think that was easy? No, it wasn't. Why? The people were not even allowed to have or read the Bible. Now, I didn't know that, I read that in distant land, but I had never known in St. Lucia they wasn't supposed to read the Bible. But I got this information from the president of the St. Lucia mission. And so, here was a stranger in their homes, encouraging them to read the Bible, going against what they had been taught. That stranger, however, was able to arouse in them the desire to find out more about the truth he showed them. And people bought the Bible, they bought the books, and they read it, also with the working of the Holy Spirit. After the Bible study, one precious soul said yes to Jesus. Her name was Zetty Simmons, and that baptism took place in the city of St. Lucia, which is Castries. At the time of her baptism, she was a leader of the Salvation Army. She was a very talented musician. She played the organ, the violin, the flute, the harp, and the cymbal. Soon after her conversion, she left St. Lucia for almost 20 years, returning as Mrs. Zetty Perth, accompanied by her husband. He was a Jamaican citizen. He too was an ardent Seventh Day Adventist Christian. And shortly after the departure of William Arnold, remember the first person was William Arnold. After
the departure of William Arnold and his wife, another William came into St. Lucia, and he was William Henry, not William Miller. At the time, there was not a single Seventh-day Adventist on the island. Can you believe it? Martin, William Martin, like Arnold, they worked hard knocking on doors, selling books, and praying for a harvest of souls. In 1902, he saw 3 families in Victoria, Swazelle, a place in St. Lucia, and that was where I was born, gave their lives to the cause of Christ. The Butcher family, the Bruce family, and the Small family. The same year in 1902, the first SDA church was built in Castries, a 1-room wooded house in a place called Bernard Hill. In 1907, the first resident minister, so remember 1902, that was the first baptism. And in 1907, the first resident minister, William Durant Ford, he arrived in St. Lucia. So from 1902, they didn't have no pastor until 1907. St. Lucia has, and then he wrote, St. Lucia has a population of 45,000 and predominantly Roman Catholic religion. He remained for 3 years. And then Zetty Simmons, now Perth, while in Jamaica, she returned to St. Lucia after the pastor left, and then they take over. The next resident minister, after the minister left, was J.D. Wood. He arrived in 1920. You see the span, the time span? So he came in 1907, and they didn't have no minister again until 1920. So when pastor said he was coming back, he was coming to us in September, that wasn't nothing compared to them not having a pastor. So he arrived in 1920 and resided in Victoria, Swazelle, taking care of the company there, while the Castries company was left in the capable care of the Perths. So the pastor was in Swazelle, in another part of St. Lucia, while those people were in. The brethren in Victoria, they tried to evangelize their neighborhood, but not finding good reception. They worked in a place called Debrel and established a church there. Today, the church still operates at the same location. The company in Castries soon outgrew its Bernard Hill location, and they started worshiping at the house of the Perths. They then transferred to another building opposite the Botanical Garden. While there, another baptism took place in 1923. I just want to, I don't know what amount of time I have. So, I'm just going to go to a village called Meekwood. And this village, I am proud to say that I am a proud product of the man who brought Adventism in that village. It was it was 1944. The same year, William was in 1844. It was 1944. A young man by the name of Pierre James. He was on his way to the city. He was going to catch the boat for him to go to fight in the army. In those days, they had the bicycle and so, but I was told from him that he walked from Miko to Castries. And when he arrived in the city, he heard singing, and curiously, he decided to go, upon curiosity, he decided to go and find out where the singing was coming from. And when he arrived, he saw a little wooden house, and he saw some members in the church, and they were singing. And he went in, snuck at the back, and he sat down and he listened. And he was intrigued by the singing and what they were saying. They were speaking about the Sabbath. And then he forgot all about he had to catch the boat for him to go and fight in the army. He walked back to Miko, I was told by him, and he went and tell his grandmother, his parents, that he didn't want to go and fight in the war. So his mother asked him, why not? He said, he went to a place and he heard people singing and they were speaking about the Sabbath, and he would like to hear more about it. He don't want to go to the war. So his mother told him, okay, if that's what he wants to do, she's not going to, she was an Adventist, she was a Catholic, but she said, that's what you want to do, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. And so he went back to the village and he spoke to the people and he told them he wanted them to come and talk to his parents about Adventism. But the man in charge told him, we are going to come, but providing you get a place for us to stay, we could come and have church with you all. He went back and he told his aunt, and the aunt's husband had a house. The house was a good size house. And he asked them to come and he gave them a room where they could have fellowship. And the people came there, they worshiped with him, and my dad went in the village and he went and invite other members, other friends of his, and he told them, come and listen to this gentleman and what he's saying. And as a result of that, the church members came together. The man was there, he wasn't a pastor, but he studied with them. And then they showed them the truth that the seventh day is the Sabbath. And when they learned that the seventh day was the Sabbath, they decided to give their life to Christ. And as a result, my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, my aunt, they were all baptized in that time. To God be the glory, great things he has done.
And as a result, now St. Lucia they have a population of 15,770 Adventists and 50 Seventh-day Adventist churches.
And our flag is represent the yellow is for the sun, the blue is for the sky, the black is for the black people, and the white is for the white people. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Nevis is a small island in the Caribbean Sea and is the sister island to St. Kitts, often referred to as the Queen of the Caribbean. Nevis holds a special place in the hearts of its people. Our island's history is a testament to resilience and determination. The Kalinago people named the island Wadi, which means land of beautiful waters. The name Nevis emerged from the Spanish explorer Christopher Columbus, who discovered the island during his second voyage to the Americas. Over the years, Nevis has experienced a series of changes in colonial leadership, passing from the British to the French and back to the British. The journey to independence was marked by solidarity and collaboration with our sister island, St. Kitts. Together, we achieved a significant milestone on September 19, 1983, when we gained our sovereignty. Today, Nevis stands as an oasis of tranquility, a picturesque destination known for its lush landscapes, historic charm, and vibrant culture. Let us remember the lessons of our history, cherish our cultural heritage, and continue to work together to shape a brighter future for St. Kitts, for Nevis. Happy Independence We will now hear a little about the history of Adventism in Nevis. Kindly stand for our national anthem.
Married to Frederick Walwyn. In the early 1900s, I came to Nevis, or we came to Nevis, and came to Nevis from St. Lucia. And we settled in Bath. We spread the Adventist message, and we settled in Bath Village.
I am Rachel Griffin, and I am married to Elihu Griffin. In the early 1900s, we returned from the Panama Canal and began evangelizing in the Mannings area.
For years, the only churches we had in Nevis were the Mannings and the Beulah congregation. Or the Mannings and the Charlestown congregations. The Beulah congregation was formed through the efforts of members from the Gingerland Seventh Day Adventist Church.
At this point, there was only one pastor for St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat, and Anguilla to be shared.
Wow.
Imagine how they get that way. In 1953, Victor Makekron had a crusade in Gingerland at the public market, which resulted in the beginning of the Gingerland congregation.
The Gingerland congregation rented a building in Rollins, where they stayed for 7 months. Then they moved to a building in Taylor's Pasture. That was only for 1 year. Before they started worshiping with the members in Charlestown. But you know what? The congregation, the landlords in the area, that is the area around here, refused to rent the Adventist property. They refused to rent them buildings so as to worship.
There was a strong desire for the Gingerland congregation to have their own space to worship in. A wealthy landowner, Mr. Bertie Crony, was approached with a bid to purchase the land on which the current sanctuary is here at Mead's Pasture.
After the land was purchased, the first resident pastor was Pastor, who can help me? Samuel Joseph. Good. He built a temporary garage for the Gingerland congregation to worship in. And I vividly remember this old man named George Rupert Brown. He was among those persons. He was there with us.
After 4 years, Pastor Joseph left, and Nevis welcomed. Anybody could tell me the name of the other pastor? Yes, Pastor Carlisle Orville Sutton as the new district pastor. He got to the head of the conference to commence the building of the sanctuary. By the end of this tenure, the roof was being placed on the sanctuary.
The Gingerland congregation continued to grow from year to year. And in 1976, the sanctuary was dedicated by W.W. Thompson. During the period 1976 to 1988, additional restructuring of the sanctuary also occurred. The lower level was completed and dedicated in 2002.
Since then, the congregation has continued to grow from year to year. The sanctuary also has expanded to include the main sanctuary on the top, which has always been the plan for the church. And in November 2019, the current sanctuary we are sitting in was completed and dedicated. Presently, we have 5 congregations: Mannings, Beulah, Charlestown, Brownhill, and yours truly, Gingerland. The Adventist membership in Nevis is 770.
To God be the glory.
Great things He has done.
I hope you would have learned a lot of the history of our church, and we do hope that we'll continue to evangelize.
Amen.
Nevis, lovely Nevis, land of sea and sun and clean fresh air. Nevis, lovely Nevis, land of people smiling, nice and gay and peaceful too. You are never sad when you come by here. You are never sad. You are never sad. You are never sad when you come by here. Nevis nice.